Welcome to Unhinged and Bumbled Up, where you can
join serial dater Phil,
that's me, and dating detoxer Liz,
that's me. Welcome to the world of online dating.
What can you expect in the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast?
Dating do's, don'ts and disasters.
What we and our guests would gladly chuck in the 2020 dating bin to be gone forever.
What real people really think about those tricky dating dilemmas.
Awesome dating trivia. You'll never know when it'll come in handy for that pub quiz.
Top tips and tricks from our awesome guest experts who luckily know a little more about dating than we do.
So if you've ever had a dating disaster,
ignore the red flags.
If your dating life is less successful than the chances of finding love on myfreeimplants.com,
then you're in the right place. Do we know what we're talking about? No! Our dating lives are both utter shite. So join us as we talk all things dating. The good, the bad, and the sorry, there's just no spark.
So if you've decided to go for the 2 parts back-to-back, then welcome again. You know what this is all about. But if you've randomly decided to listen to this episode on its own, go back, listen to part 1. But this is with Jo Westwood, and we're talking about codependency, narcissism, and a lot more. Enjoy. With red flags, we asked that question, can you let something go when you see red flags? Liz, can you let something go if you see red flags?
I think should you is a more important question. I used to be very naive about red flags. I tend to be quite an empath, and I'm kind of used to be very much somebody who just gave everybody the benefit of the doubt and wanting to see the best in everybody and believe that people are fundamentally good people. So really gave people the benefit of the doubt, like much more than is reasonable. I now feel like I've swung the other way, and now the second there's even an orange flag, I'm like, no, fuck off. No, I don't want anything to do with this.
If it's not a green flag, don't come near me.
My boundaries are like, distance. But I think it's hard to know when a red flag is a red flag and you should pay attention. But you don't want to be so hot on it that the second that anyone makes a minor misstep, you chuck them out the door, you know?
So what percentage of our followers do you think said yes, they can let something go when they see red flags?
I think about 50%.
I was going to say 40 or 50 maybe.
39% said yes, 61% said no.
I'm loving that awareness from people though.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one, because I know loads of people that see the red flags and still go charging towards it.
Yeah, but it's because they're not recognizing them as red flags. If
point.
People can only say that you're only aware of the red flags that you're aware of, not all the ones that you're merrily skipping by.
Yeah. But if they see the red flags, they're still running towards it. So,
and that's kind of what I mean about giving people the benefit of the doubt. Isn't it? But I really liked what Jo said earlier about if you kind of set out your stall and somebody makes a misstep, A, you can see if they can self-monitor and recognize they've made a misstep, or B, you're learning something about them with the fact that they've made an overstep. Whereas if you never stated the boundary or the preference in the first place, you can't expect them to have that self-awareness when they overstep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So shall we move on to some dating tips for people who are codependent?
Yes. Okay. Okay, so if you look, these are just good dating tips for anyone.
Take a note.
But they are especially relevant to people who are codependent or people pleasers. So first one is get to know what your values are. So this is something that I do with my clients, and I get them to break it down into 2 categories. So your values for yourself, what are important values in your life? So how you want to be as a person, but also things what kind of lifestyle do you want? You might have a specific lifestyle that works for you. You might be somebody who wants to travel a lot. That might be something that's really important to you. Or you might be a super homebody that wants to be really close to your family. That's a really important value for you. And then the values about who you want to be as a person is things You want to be honest, you want to be loyal, you want to have high integrity, that kind of thing. And then the other one is, what values do you want in another person? And a lot of those will probably be the same as yours, but some might be slightly different. That's why I get people to break it down into 2 categories, because particularly in romantic relationships, I think it's quite nice and it works quite well. And sometimes it's really enjoyable when someone has complementary qualities to yours. So you might be someone who's quite introverted, but you know that you really thrive around someone who's more of an extrovert or an ambivert. So like you can help ground them and they help bring you out of your shell. And that's like, that's a really nice combo for you. You know that if you're in a relationship with another introvert, you're just going to be a pair of hermits.
Netflix all the time.
Yeah. And again, that might be something that you love. That's fine. And if that works for you, that's awesome. But that's just like that's kind of like an easy to access example of where your values for yourself and for somebody else might differ slightly. So when you get really strong on those, it's really easy to know what is a red flag for you and what isn't, what's a non-negotiable and what's something that you're willing to negotiate on. That's how you can start to tell, well, that actually, like that was an overstep. They've overstepped my boundary. That's an absolute non-negotiable. So like for me, there are things around people's political views. Like I cannot come home to somebody that is going to argue with me about feminism or progressive politics. I don't need that at home. I want somebody that I know is aligned with me, because that's super, super important for me. That's a absolute non-negotiable for me. If we don't align on that, it's done. Doesn't matter what else you've got going on. There's other stuff where like it's much more, I'm like, that's fine. I'm much more easygoing on it. I can give you the benefit of the doubt, or we can figure out if like we find a way to work between us. So knowing those values just becomes much easier to figure out what's a red flag, what's not, what's a yes, what's a no, you know, who aligns with you, who doesn't. Second one, trust actions, not words. I don't even know if I need to say much more about that.
Mic drop. Like, mic drop, put it on a t-shirt.
I will put the post up on the story once it says about actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, like, you know, words are cheap. Anyone can say anything to anyone at any time. Do people's actions match up with their words? And this is particularly a technique that is used by narcissistic people or manipulative people when they're doing things like gaslighting, is they're telling you one thing but they're doing another, and you so want to believe what they're saying that you almost become blind to the actions, and you have to focus on the actions, almost like put the person on mute, press mute on the remote control and watch what they're doing without the sound, and you will see whether they're telling the truth or not. And, you know, right from the start, you can see that. So even just the way that somebody communicates with you, like if somebody says they're going to call at a certain time and then they don't, and then they don't follow up or let you know why, and it's like, okay, well, your actions didn't match with your words. And it might not be that you just like cut them off at that point. But you kind of like keep it in your back pocket and you stay aware, and you're like, okay, well, we'll see if you kind of have integrity and stay true to your word as the, you know, relationship develops.
Yeah.
And then the third one is take it very, 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 very slowly. Like so slowly that it's going to feel weird and awkward and unnatural to you. As a codependent person, if it feels weird and awkward and unnatural to you, it's probably going at like a normal person's pace. The thing is, a good, deep, true, honest connection will survive a slow start.
Yeah.
And anybody that truly cares about you and respects you and respects your boundaries and is actually listening to you and paying attention to what you're saying and how you're explaining yourself and why you're saying you want it to move slowly, then they'll be fine with that because they want to be around you. So if that initial stage that might normally have taken you a week takes 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, like that's cool. And also, like, what's the rush?
Yeah.
If it's good, don't you want it to like last as long as possible?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, and I think it also comes back to the question you asked earlier, Phil, about the pandemic and the impact of pandemic in terms of like speeding things up. Because I know that people have gone from like a walking date to basically living together and being each other's support bubble at breakneck speed. But also, I think there's something about age here that might be interesting to mention, because I mean, I don't want kids, so it's no biggie. I can like all the time in the world, like la la la. But I do think there is possibly a tendency for women in particular, as they move into, for example, their 30s, if they want a family, to try and move things along quickly, because they're thinking, well, if it takes me 2 years to figure out if I want to be in this relationship, like time is ticking. And I think that can be a motivator for trying to really like rattle through the early phase quickly, which obviously doesn't always work out that well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you bring up, Liz. And I'm the same. I don't want children either. So I'm
yeah, to the No Kids Club.
I've got a kid.
I like other people's kids. I just don't want to like birth any.
Yeah.
Ever.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just in the rich aunties club. Yeah, so I think, I mean, and I come across this with clients, this kind of desire to have a family and feeling like the biological clock is ticking. And what I say to people is, one, the last thing that you want is to be tied to someone who is not who you thought they were for the rest of your life via having a child with them. Like, look, it's, you know, separating from the, you know, the co-parent of your child. It's yes, it's a stressful thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this like awful negative thing. That's not what I'm saying. But if that other person is very difficult, if they are narcissistic, if they are manipulative, if they're just a nasty piece of work, I can tell you that, like, yes, you will love your child, but it's gonna make your life so hard. And if you can avoid being tied to a person like that for the rest of your life via a child, you will like
it's a good thing. Yeah.
That's just
don't have a kid with the wrong person. Moral of the story.
Well, like, it's not even with the wrong person, because you can, like, again, you can separate from the co-parent of your child and it actually be like, and it can be okay. You know, you can have a productive and civil relationship and co-parent in a healthy way. So there's like, that's completely different to like being trapped with someone who is in some way like abusive. Like, you don't want that. And then the other thing is I say is, and again, it is a bit rich coming from me, who doesn't want children and so doesn't feel this pressure. But I do say to people, because I've got people in my life who have had children in non-traditional ways, that there are so many ways to create a family these days. There are
it's
so many different ways
like
to have children. You don't necessarily need a partner for that. You don't necessarily have to give birth to that child. Like, there's so many different ways that you can have a family and have that fulfillment, and you don't necessarily need to wait for a partner to come along to get that. And you certainly don't need to like force and pressure that when you're just in the early stages of dating. Like, you know, if you want a family and that's super, super important to you, figure out how to get that, and then figure out how to get like a really gorgeous, amazing partner that you can have a fulfilling relationship with as well, and kind of have everything that you want, rather than having like a bit of some of what you want.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
And it's a lot to pin on somebody else to expect them to come into your life and give you the traditional family that you had expected. And I just really like the idea of like, make your own plans. If somebody comes along who wants to join in, great. And that's kind of what the Date for a Year is about. Like, make your own plans, like design your own life. And then if somebody shows up, awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
The people have spoken.
This segment is called The People Have Spoken. Well, you've spoken, if you're an Instagram follower, that is. So, every Wednesday, we ask some questions and get your answers, then we discuss.
The people have spoken.
So we asked our followers if they have any questions for Jo. Now they do.
That's lucky. This would have been a really short segment otherwise.
It would have been a massively short segment. So we've got quite a few. We'll see if we can get through them all. If not, I apologise, but we'll find out the answers and we'll put them on Instagram for you. Right, where are we going to start? Here's a good one that I like. Codependency is often glamorized in Hollywood and seen as love. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Quick fire
That
round.
was a great answer. Great answer.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, I will expand on that. Yeah, so I actually have a little I need to fill it up some more, but I have a highlight on my Instagram which is it says Cody culture, and actually the majority of what we are presented as love in in songs, in movies, less so with like modern media. I think we're definitely seeing like more enlightenment in like modern content, but certainly anything from like 5 years ago. So everything that we've seen and heard, sung along to, watched for the majority of our lives, the way that love has been presented to us in that content and that media is basically just codependency, and also like quite a lot of narcissism as well, and like misogynistic and patriarchal relationships, and like in very traditional gender roles and all that stuff. So yes, absolutely 100% agree. Sing along to your favorite love songs, but remember that they are songs to sing to and boogie to, and not real life.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to Love Actually and get involved with the Prime Minister, are you?
Oh, for God's sake. And like the scene with the signs. I'm sorry, it's not romantic.
Yes.
It's not
thank you.
Also,
romantic.
bro code. Like, come on.
Yes. Sorry.
Rude.
That everybody goes after Alan Rickman for cheating on his missus with the secretary, which, yeah, fine. But
Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Love Actually.
If you haven't seen Love Actually, then
If
where
you're the
have
only
you been?
person
Yeah.
on the planet.
But nobody goes after Andrew for basically trying it on with his missus and admitting that he loves her. That his mate's
It's
missus.
toxic.
Yes.
It's toxic as fuck. And the way that she stands there moony-eyed
Yep.
and isn't like,
And then kisses
piss
him.
off.
What?
That's like, piss off. That's your best mate upstairs. What are you doing, you freak?
Also, in all the other storylines, like, oh yeah, you don't speak the same language, and so let's just go to Portugal and propose. That's normal. No.
It should be called Codependency, actually.
We'll retitle it.
We've renamed it.
Yeah.
So, another question. I keep being told online dating is full of broken people, but I'm not broken. So what do you think?
Okay. So online dating is as full of, and in air quotes here, broken people as the real world is full of broken people. What I will say is that the internet is definitely a magnifier. In a lot of ways, it's a magnifier for amazing things. Like, because of the internet, I have met incredible people. I do all my work on the internet. I've met clients from around the world. I met you guys. I met one of my best friends on Facebook a few years ago. Like, so many amazing things have come for me from the internet. We see all these amazing social movements growing up out of the internet. The internet can also be a complete cesspit.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is like look at YouTube comments, or basically any comment section of anything, anywhere. Like, it brings out the worst in people as well as it brings out the best in people. It's just a magnifier. So yeah, there are absolutely going to be quote unquote broken people, people who are fucked up, people who don't really know what they want on online dating. But I promise you, when we open up and we're out of pandemic times, they'll all be in the bars and they'll all be in the parks, and they're all at your sister's barbecue that you're going to next weekend as well. Like, all those same people that are on apps, they don't just exist magically on apps. They're also out in the world. So if people are saying like, maybe it just feels like it's more magnified and more intense on dating apps right now. One, because the internet is a magnifier and it kind of allows you to be more of a dick if you've got a tendency to be a dick anyway, which you might not otherwise see unless the person was like drunk or like wound up in some way. but also because that's the only place that any of us have been for a year is on the internet.
Yep.
And so it seems like, oh, well, all the dickheads are on the internet. And it's like, no, love, all the dickheads are in the world. They just happen to all be looking at their phone at the moment.
Because they're trapped inside. Because
as we are.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, if you imagine it as in like walking into a bar, there might be one person that you would connect with, like out of the 500 people that are in that bar. It's exactly the same. If you scroll, but we expect to like find like loads of matches for some reason. But if you scroll through like 500 people on a dating app, you might find one person that you really connect with, just like they're, you know, it's the same ratio. It's the same people that exist in real life also exist on dating apps.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't magically get more people.
No, and also the concept of broken people. I feel like I don't really subscribe to that. Like, everybody has got issues. I don't think there is a single adult who doesn't have some kind of issues or challenges or whatever. It's kind of what we talked about earlier in terms of like the important thing for me is, are they aware of them and are they doing some work on them? But if you are trying to find somebody who has no issues whatsoever, like, good luck. All I feel like we can really hope to find is somebody whose issues are loosely compatible and can exist alongside ours while we mutually and simultaneously do some work on ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really interested in like whoever is using that language of broken people. That to me is like a mirror. Hold it up to yourself, because if you're trying to look for somebody, and I don't I don't think it is the person that asked the question. I think they're saying that
they've been told,
you know, their friends are saying, oh, it's full of broken people. Well, whoever's telling you that, I'd be interested to know what their lives are like, and if they think that it's somehow magically unbroken, if like whatever that means. Because if you're looking for a perfect person, then you better be perfect.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
You know, you're going to have to like match that person at their level. So yeah, I think that's the other thing as well to understand is like, what are your standards? What are your values? What do you actually want from meeting somebody online? And when you know that, it becomes just so much easier to sort the wheat from the chaff. And it's not about those people being broken. It's just about, they're not a match for you right now. And that's cool. That's fine. You're not a match for them either. Like, yeah.
Are you ready for another question?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hit me.
What's your opinion on ethically non-monogamous relationships with regards to codependency? Could it be a way to have a more open, honest conversation and allow yourself to really decide on boundaries and limits?
So this is interesting. It's really nuanced because it really just depends. It depends on the person. I think it definitely depends on your level of healing. I have recommended before, and I'm always reluctant to say this because I feel like codependent people are just going to take it and run with it. But like, for people who have a good level of like healing and recovery and awareness around their codependency, I have recommended like casual dating, which is kind of like, which is not the same as ethical non-monogamy, but could be in the same vein as like basically like a more like poly lifestyle where you're dating in relationship, romantically linked, sexually connected to more than one person. On the casual dating end of the scale, that's more like the other people probably don't know, but they're aware that you're not exclusive. Ethically non-monogamous is everybody who's involved with you is aware of everybody else who is involved with you, and you may also be potentially like polyamorous and have different relationship structures around that. So I do say to people who have a good level of healing and recovery in their codependency that sometimes that looser relationship structure can be really helpful, because you aren't putting all your eggs in one basket, basically, where you tend to slip up with that intensity of convincing yourself that because this person is where the majority of your attention, your focus is going, that they are the one, they're your soulmate, they're your perfect one, etc., etc. And that's when you can get blind to the red flags. Whereas if you've got, maybe you're kind of casually dating 2 or 3 people, one, it splits your focus and your attention so you don't get that intensity, and 2, it allows you to kind of sample like different styles, different personalities, different people, kind of see, oh well, like this person like doesn't do this for me, but this person does, and that really works for me. Like, I want more of that.
Yeah, and
so that's kind of, it's like a little like tapas little buffet of like, oh well, you know,
tapas,
like
amazing.
I like this salami, but I don't like the potatoes so much over here, so I'm going to have some more of the salami.
But I think that's also interesting with people who are codependent, who maybe have a tendency to fear being alone because of the dependency on other people's validation. Because if you start seeing somebody and it becomes exclusive very quickly, if it's not working, your choice is be in this dysfunctional relationship or be alone. Whereas maybe if you have a couple of things going on or whatever, the choice is not quite so binary about relationship or nothing. It's like, well, not this relationship, but maybe another.
Yeah. So, and I have heard increasingly, and it's like, it's still quite a small percentage, but I have heard increasingly codependent people say to me that polyamory or ethical non-monogamy works quite well for them for that reason. But they are people who've really like gone through the work of codependent recovery, because of course, if you're like early on in the stages of codependency and you haven't really done any healing or recovery work, you could get really triggered by jealousy around not being exclusive with the partner. Also, you might find yourself in the same way that before you perhaps just filled your life up with one person and everything that's going on with them, you might find yourself actually just going on a different date with a different person every night of the week, and in that way completely avoiding yourself and staying stuck in your dysfunctional cycles and your addiction, but thinking that you're somehow being like really liberated, but actually what you're doing is just totally avoiding yourself, not being connected with yourself in any way. So yes, if you've got a good level of healing and recovery, a more casual relationship structure, I think, can potentially be helpful for codependent people. But be careful with that advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Okay, so Jo, last question, and it's kind of got two parts, is firstly, will that need always be there? So can you ever really get rid of the codependent tendency? Or is it a case of more like learning to live with it and learning to manage it? And secondly, how can you kind of check in with yourself to know that, or to kind of check in with whether you're over romanticizing or over investing, and that kind of like throwing yourself into a relationship, self-abandonment kind of thing? How can you kind of self-monitor that?
Okay, so I'll answer the second part first. Okay. So how you check in with yourself is what I gave in the dating tips, really. It's like, do some level of recovery work first, like and this it does link to the first part of the question as well, but like, do some level. It's not like you have to be perfectly recovered before you get into dating, like, but you need to feel good and strong in yourself. You need to know what your values are, and then when you go slowly enough, you give yourself the time and space to keep checking in. You know, take a kind of like emotional temp check after you've had a date with someone. Oh, did that feel good? Does it feel fulfilling? Do I feel like that was a net gain, or was it actually kind of a bit draining, or were there more things that were off than that felt good? If so, like, and you just check in like bit by bit, day by day, in that way, and you have to just give yourself the time and space to do that. So there's not like a specific technique. It's more about speed or lack of, and space. And in that way, you can stay more in your logical mind, and you can stay more grounded and centered in your body. And that, you know, where we feel these feelings in our bodies, you know, you get like anxiety and fear, and it's like tightness in your chest, or you might get knots in your stomach, and it's like paying attention to all that stuff. But when you're just racing through the beginning of a relationship, you don't give yourself a chance to check in with that stuff, and you brush it to one side, or you excuse it, you make it something else, and you don't realize that it's correlating to the experience you're having with this person, and that maybe it's trying to tell you something. And then the first part of the question around, can you ever like fully recover from codependency? I think it's hard to say because, again, it's different for everybody and it's a sliding scale. And I think it is about lifelong maintenance is the thing I would say. I think you can get pretty close to it not being there. Here's what I think. So we said earlier that someone being healthy is about like knowing how they're fucked up and dealing with it.
Yeah.
If you know how you're fucked up and you deal with it, you know, you do healing work, you go to therapy, you have a really good sense of self-awareness, you can pick yourself up when you make mistakes or backsteps. And this is not, that just doesn't apply to codependency, but to everything, anything that anybody could have going on. I think that's always kind of leave you with a bit of a flavor. It's always going to leave you with a certain perspective on life. It's going to leave you with a certain angle. It's going to leave you with a certain way that you deal with things. It's going to leave you with like a certain flavor of like what works for you, what doesn't, what feels good to you, what doesn't. So your codependent recovery, I think your codependency will always linger in that way, but you can reduce it down so it's the smallest part of you. You can actually make your codependency something that's like this small but like healed and beautiful part of yourself, which is actually a really nice guiding part of yourself, which reminds you to slow down, to have boundaries, to check in with what your values are. So I think that you can, as much as is possible, as a flawed and probably traumatized human being, heal from codependency. The first stage is intense, and the first stage is like months and years, a few months, a few years of like unpicking, undoing, unlearning, relearning how to be more functional and a healthier, more balanced person. And then beyond that, it's more like maintenance. And then you have these things that come up that I call new level, new devil. So a new challenge is going to come up in your life. You know, maybe you move to a new place, maybe you get married, maybe you have a kid, maybe you get a new job, and you might find that triggers your codependency a little bit. But because you've been practicing, because you've done the recovery work, because you've got good maintenance skills, you know what tools you need to tap into. You know what part of your healing you need to go back to be like, okay, this is like triggered me a little bit. I've gone into my codependent anxiety. This is fine. Or I've sensed I'm going into people pleasing. I know what to do with this because I've dealt with it before. So very, very long answer. So we've gone from very short answers to very long answers.
But amazing
but, you know,
answers, all of them have been.
Oh, well, thank you, Al.
Dating disasters.
This segment of the show is called Dating Disasters, because let's face it, we've all had them. Each week we'll be asking our guests to share their worst dating disaster, and we'll be sharing a dating disaster we've either received or one of our own.
Okay, Jo, so we've come round to that point in the show where it's time for a dating disaster. Do you have one for us?
Oh, I do, and I forgot about this part of the show.
Unlucky.
Okay, so this is a recent one, and we call this premature date man. It's not as exciting as it sounds, everyone.
Anything
like,
with premature in the title, everyone's like, oh.
Everyone's like, it's about to get explicit.
Just turn
Put
the
headphones
volume
on the kids. Okay. Do not turn the volume up if somebody says premature. just like a hot podcast tip. That is not the point at which you want to turn the volume up. Okay. So I had met someone on a dating app, and it was great. He was charismatic and like fun and confident, and like progressed the conversation, and like asked for a phone call. And hi, as I mentioned earlier, almost 35. I'm like, people call me on the phone. I am loving this. This is great. Like, yes, please. Like, we spoke for, I think, over an hour the first time we connected. It was great. Conversation was easy. It's fantastic. So and then I don't know if this was like a slight red flag. I did feel a little bit uncomfortable with this, but I was also kind of in a place of like not wanting to do like a park date or anything like that. But he kind of like suggested an in-home date. And that's fine. Like, yeah. But I was kind of fine with that.
Yeah.
Like that's okay for me. I don't mind that. I certainly don't want to do a walking date or another park date, which I think are also in the bin.
Yeah, we're not leaving many options.
It's basically just pandemic dating is in the bin, right?
Yeah.
But he did it in a really awesome way. So he came to my place and like brought a whole like box full of like mixers and spirits to make cocktails with, like bought a full bar. Nice. And like told me he was going to do this, sent me a cocktail menu in advance, and it's like, this is so cool, like awesome, loving the level of effort going into this. Also fully aware that I'm not the first person that's like had the cocktail bar experience, so it's slight
but if it's polished and he's figured out what he needs to bring, I don't mind it. I don't mind a good recycled date if it works.
Yeah, I'm totally into somebody that like knows what they're doing, thinks ahead, has planned it out. Feels good. Okay, so we'd been chatting. We were going to do the date on Sunday. This is very important, guys. Keep up with this. Sunday. We were going to do the date we're going to do it on Sunday. But then I was like, I don't want to do it on Sunday. Like Sunday's like I just want to like chill, go to bed early, like get ready for my working week on Monday. But I had something like going on the Saturday where I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to like do the date tonight. So that's why we said the Sunday. But then I checked and I was like, actually, it's going to be fine Saturday night. So I got back to him and I was like, Saturday night. Okay. Saturday, we changed to Saturday. He was like, yep, fine, cool. Okay. So Friday, I feel you probably all can sense what's coming. Friday, I had gone out with my friend for a drink in the afternoon. It was a lovely sunny afternoon. I had to put a dress on for the first time in I can't remember how long. Makeup.
This is really recent because we had rain and snow until like March this year. Carry on.
You can pin this down to like 3 weekends this year.
Yeah.
It was like, and it was lovely. So we went for like an afternoon drink and then came home, ordered myself a Domino's.
Oh yes. Winning.
Got into my pajamas. It's like 6:30 because we went out for like an early drink, 6:30. And I was just sitting there like, literally, I wrapped a granny blanket around me up above the boobs. So like towel style, because I think I'd left the door open for the dog. So it's a little bit chilly. So it's like, I've got my pajamas on. They're Schitt's Creek pajamas. So they've got items from the TV show Schitt's Creek printed all over the bottoms and a t-shirt that says warmest regards. And then a granny blanket wrapped up around the boobs, towel style, plate of pizza on the arm of the sofa, just scrolling through Netflix, looking for something. The curtains are closed in my living room. And the dogs start barking. There's a knock at the door. The curtains are like they're like mainly closed but open, just like a little peek. And I see a red car outside, and I'm like, my sister drives a red car, and I was like, oh, this is weird. What's my sister doing here? She normally would like text me or call me before she comes up, but so because I thought it was my sister, I just went to the door with the granny blanket wrapped around me with my Schitt's Creek pajamas on. Thankfully, I hadn't smashed pizza all around my face at this point. And it's premature date man.
Oh, no.
Awkward.
He came a day early.
Yeah.
I mean 2 days early originally. For the original day, it's 2 days early.
Phil is prompt, but that is really taking it some.
Yeah, it came a whole day early.
So what did you say?
I said, no, Saturday.
Just yell no.
I said, no, Saturday. And he was like, his face just dropped and he's like, what? Well, I was like, we said Saturday. It's Friday. I was like, it's Friday, right? It's Friday. We said Saturday. And he was like, oh, and I was like, okay, it's fine. Like, come in. It's fine. He was like, he was so confident. He just styled it out.
Wow.
I felt more awkward than he did.
Did you like extract the blanket from under your armpits?
I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, come in. Like, just give me 5 minutes. Thankfully, because I'd been out for a drink with my friend, I still had my makeup on. So I still looked nice. I couldn't be asked to like wash my face before I ate my pizza. I was like, I'm going to have to wash my face after that anyway. So, yeah. And like the clothes that I'd had on were still laid out on the bed. So I was like, okay, you just give me a moment. Went upstairs, got changed, came back down. Oh, and then there's like a B-side to this as well. My goodness.
Turn the tape over. Let's go.
So then he come down, say hi, it's fine. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I thought you were my sister. He's totally cool, styled it out, and he was like, it's fine, it's your house, wear whatever you want. I thought you were a bit casual, but you know, it's your place. Like I was like, dude, you are winning. You were doing very well on this. But I couldn't stop like just bursting into random laughter as he's like mixing the first cocktail. Makes a very nice espresso martini. Like, oh, should we go and sit outside? So we go sit outside on my garden, a little bit annoyed because I've still got some of my washing on the line. It's nothing embarrassing, but I'm like, this is not quite the view that I would have hoped for. And then I've got 3 dogs. My largest dog came outside and did a shit right in front of us.
Romantic.
Oh. Was there another date with premature date man? No, that was it.
The poops just sealed the deal.
It wasn't the shit Crete's pajamas. It was the actual shit.
It was the dog shit.
Yep.
So I used to do a lot of like work in LA with people who are like in the self-development industry. And when I was in a really bad relationship a few years ago, I had a dog that kept pooing in the house. And one of my friends out there said to me, Jo, your dog is shitting in your house because they're trying to tell you something in your life is dog shit.
Can I just say that as an impressive American accent?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this poop on the grass was actually a sign that this is not the relationship for you.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
when you're drinking a brown cocktail as well.
Yeah.
It's really
not ideal. With a guy who shouldn't even be at your house. I would be so furious if I was looking forward to a night in with the dominoes in my pajamas and some bloke turns up. No.
Yeah. I was like,
I think I would have turned him away. I can't see a world in which I've got my pajamas on and I'm willing to take them back off and put real clothes on again. Like even for some cocktails.
Especially the lobster ones.
The lobster ones, the ones with the unicorns. I'm just I feel like once you got in that zone, I admire you for making the effort to try and get out of it, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like he'd kind of made the effort. He'd driven a little way as well.
Okay, yeah.
Like not super far, but I was like, oh, you know, it's no big deal. I'll just slip these PJs off and slip that dress back on. You'll no one will ever know. Like it never happened.
Exactly.
Nuts or nuts?
Oh, Nottingham.
Oh, Nottingham.
It's full of fun.
It's full of fun.
It's full of fun.
This section is called Knots or Not. Now, Jo was born in Nottingham, but she moved away, and Liz is originally from Essex, so we're going to test out their skills with knots.
Knots or not? Little surprise game for you guys. So, since I'm the only one that's been in the East Midlands all of my life, because someone was born there but moved away, and someone wasn't born here and moved here. So, we're going to play Knots or Not. So you're going to take it in turns. I am going to give you a saying, and you've got to tell me what it means. So it's not really knots or knots, but you've got to tell me what it means.
Okay.
So, who's going first?
Jo, you're the guest. You go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jo, easy one. A up.
Oh, knots, obs.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
Knots through and through. It means hello.
Hello.
Well, A up me duck.
A up me duck.
Advanced is Hello, dearest friend of mine.
There we go. Liz, barm cake.
Oh, I know this one.
Is it
Because
nuts or not?
It's not. It's scouse. It means bread
Okay.
roll.
Yes. And what's the nuts version of bread roll?
Cobb.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't have been able to get that. I just know that barm cake is. I was in a relationship with a scouser for about 3 years. I'm well familiar with a barm cake.
Jo, knobby greens.
You know, I don't know what that is, but I think that's nuts.
It is nuts.
But I don't know what
What
it
is
is.
it?
Brussels sprouts.
Oh,
There we go.
I mean, it's much better than their actual name.
I love this place. It's the best.
Twitchell. Liz.
Mm.
A twitchell.
I'm gonna say not.
It's nuts.
Is it?
Yes,
what
but
is
do you
it?
know what it is?
I've never heard that. No.
Jo, do you want to tell her what a twitchell is?
I don't know what that is.
Oh my
I
god,
don't
you
know
two
what that
have
is.
been. A twitchell is an alleyway or a jitty.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never heard
Never
that.
heard
We
that.
just call it a jitty.
Oh wow. Am I the only
Wait, I
person
don't
who
even.
knows
You know,
it's a
I don't even
twitchell?
know the word. What's jitty? Wait, is
That's
an
another
alleyway?
nuts word. Or a ginnel or a venal.
what?
I cannot get with Ginnell people. Ginnell people can keep it.
Or a snicket.
Ginnell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Snicket can
I'm
stay.
so confused.
You need to live
Welcome
in
to
nuts
the North
longer.
Side.
Like, why are we not just calling it an
The
alleyway?
Midlands. Because it's a twitchell, all right, or a jitty.
If it's
These are kind of easy. It gets a lot more difficult in nuts.
Oh, God.
Really. Derby Road. So it's a bit Derby Road out here tonight, Jo.
Well, I guess that's not.
Mhm.
I guess it means code.
Code.
Cold?
Yep, code.
It's code.
It's cold out
rhyming.
here.
Nice. That'll be right.
Liz.
Yeah.
Tabs.
Love this one.
Tabs. I'm just going to
Yeah,
tell
I'm
you
gonna
it's
say-
nuts. It's nuts.
It's
But
not-
what is it?
Oh, so Joe's trying to help me via the power of mind, but I'm not getting it. Is
Correct, with a lot of help from
Why?
Jo. It's called
Why?
tabs. It's your tabs.
You're
you're
Right.
not helping
I
me.
guess they
Why?
look a bit like a tab. They look a little bit like a
Yeah,
tab
a
on your
tab.
head. Like, yeah, my tab's a Derby Road duck.
Yeah. Or he had such big tabs that they used to call him the FA Cup. That's what it says on here. Now, because she helped you, because Jo helped you, I'm going to give you another nuts, and you've got to answer this one.
Okay.
Croggy. Now, Jo will know this one. What's a croggy?
I do know this one.
Come on, Liz.
Okay, so it's a noun, I'm assuming. I would have said it meant like grumpy or something, but that doesn't work in the context you've just said.
That's Mardy.
Croggy. I would have thought I would know more of these. I went to uni in Leicester, but this is hard. This is a hard. Croggy. I don't know. Is it something to do with food?
No, come on, Jo. A croggy.
So it's giving somebody a backy on your bike. I don't know what you
call it.
is that what you call it down south?
You sit them on the crossbar, or they sit on the seat while you stand up and ride on your bike. There we go. Your knowledge has improved,
hasn't it? I feel like now I actually can call this home at last after very nearly a year.
I'll teach you more words as we go along.
Okay, I need the lingo.
Now, Liz, you can have a cob whilst your mate gives you a croggy and you hold on to the tabs.
Perfect. That's like an ideal weekend.
Great first date.
Let's move on to final thoughts, shall we?
Shall we?
Final thoughts.
This segment is called Final Thoughts. Basically, we take a look back at the episode and we each pick something that we'll take away from it or something that we have learned.
Right, here is the part of the show where we will each give one thing what we're going to take away. So, Jo, let's let you go first today. What is your final thought?
So this has come up a few times through our discussion today. I really liked the way that Liz worded it. Actually, it's about this idea of like broken people, or like how people are working on themselves or not. And I think that's just something that we all need to be like super aware of, for ourselves. And when we're going into dating, being aware of our own shit and trying to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And also giving people the opportunity to be aware of theirs and work on it. And that's honestly like the best that we can hope for. And it's not like you're settling for something bad by saying that's the best you can hope for, but like that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Allowing people to be aware of their stuff and working on it, like that's a really lovely thing to give someone the space to do, and understanding that there are also going to be a lot of people who aren't aware of their stuff or are aware of it and aren't working on it. And that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can just let them go. You do not need to invite them into your life. You also don't need to judge them. They're not broken. They're just on their own journey. Maybe they haven't gotten there yet, and that's fine. They're just not for you. So like just being aware of, I think, how you use that language and how we judge ourselves, how we judge other people, and staying aware and like doing our best to sort our own shit out, and inviting in the good ones.
Yeah. Liz, what have you going to take away from this episode?
I think final thought for me is just going back to one of the kind of fundamental principles of codependency, which is this idea of entangling your sense of self with somebody else to the extent that you lose who you are. And I think that's something a lot of people can recognize when you come out of a relationship. And I've done it myself, where I'm like, I don't know what I like doing. I don't know what toothpaste I want to buy. I don't know what I want to eat for tea, because you've become so one with the other person that you actually don't know who you are by yourself. And I think that idea, this, we talked about it before, this idea of halves and making a whole is very much romanticized. But actually, I think there's something really powerful and kind of final thoughty in the power of getting a really strong sense of who you are, what you're about, what you need and want and like, what works for you. And actually the unwillingness to just abandon that for a possible romantic connection. Like that commitment to honoring who you are as a person and finding a relationship which can bring out the best in that, rather than meeting somebody and rushing towards self-abandonment to try and make it work.
Yeah.
Phil, how about yours?
Me. See, I normally come up with a really silly one, don't I? But this time I'm going to take away what you said about like the codependency narcissistic behavior and how you described all of that, because I find that's going to be really, really helpful to the listeners that weren't aware of that, because many people are possibly codependent without realizing they're codependent, or they're in a narcissistic relationship without realizing they are. And I think the way that you broke that down was amazing, and just all of it's been pretty amazing actually, and your advice has been invaluable even. There we go. And that's
100%.
I think so. I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, Jo. And if our listeners want to find out more about you and the Wildly Worthy community, where can they find you?
And where can we sign up? I'm first in the queue.
And then, tell them all about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really, really enjoyed chatting to you. So the main place that I hang out is on Instagram. I'm at Jo Westwood. You can check out my website, jowestwood.com. And if you're interested in the Wildly Worthy community, you can just click the link in my bio again. In Instagram, you'll find out all about it there, or you can go to wildlyworthy.mn for Mighty Networks. .co, and you can sign up there.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That's cool. And also, one last thing is, Jo is coming with us to Crazy Golf. The Not Crew are going.
We're going on a field trip, and
are.
Jo's going to get to see how awful I am at Crazy Golf, and then might not like me and want to hang out anymore.
And we'll be joined by Wayne as well.
It's going to be so embarrassing.
I love how you're assuming that 1, I'll be good at crazy golf, and 2, that I'll be judging anybody for their shyness at crazy golf.
There's alcohol involved, people. You lot will be fine. It's fine. Alcohol involved.
I've not volunteered for this because I'm good at golf, is what I'm saying.
Well, the alcohol is definitely not going to help with the crazy golf skills either. Or maybe it will. Maybe I'll just get absolutely wrecked and be fine.
You're allowed 6 goes maximum, so we're good. It'll be fine.
I thought you were going to say you're allowed 6 pints, Phil. Right,
whatever helps your golfing game, take it.
So we'll report back on the outcome.
We will. I'm sure there'll be like an Instagram live or some crazy thing going on, because people have told me that I have to wear the yellow hoodie. That is what they've said.
You have to wear the yellow hoodie, and you have to not film me golfing. That's the condition. I will film you golfing. Yellow hoodie. Okay, the hoodie is a yes. The filming is yet to be negotiated.
We'll
cool.
See.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. We have absolutely loved having Jo on the show. So yeah, check her out on Instagram, and yeah, join us next week for our next episode.
Yep. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
And that's the end of our Knots Crew episode with the amazing Jo Westwood. Now, next week, we haven't got a topic yet. So, if you're out there listening to this and want to slide into the DMs and give us a topic, that would be amazing. A topic that the Phil and Lizz chats can go on about. Something that may get us on a soapbox, may not, may cause a slight rant, may not, or just getting us into giggles again. So, thank you everybody for listening. You are amazing as always.
And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, then you can do, whether that's to submit a dating disaster, ask a question, or ask for some advice. We're not that good at helping, but one of our guest experts will certainly be able to. So if you'd like to get in touch, head on over to our socials.
On Facebook and Instagram, it's at Unhinged and Bumbled Up.
On Twitter, it's at BumbledUp.
Or by email, it's unhinged.and.bumbledup@gmail.com.
If you liked the episode, then please don't forget to like and share, and click the follow button above.
We also now have a website, www.uabu.co.uk. See you all next week.